I was diagnosed with Pyroluria 10 years ago, and so today I'm doing a bit of an update talking about what Pyroluria is and what's changed for me in the last 10 years. Hi there, my name is Sue. Welcome to my channel if you've not been here before. I was diagnosed with Pyroluria or Pyrrole Disorder 10 years ago when I was 50 years old, and I did a couple of videos back then. I've done a couple since, but I haven't done any videos talking about it for quite a while. I think I've actually mentioned it in some of my videos, but I've never really kind of gone into detail about what that is and what that means. And so I was asked in a comment the other day. I had a gentleman who'd been on my first video that I made just after I'd been diagnosed with Pyroluria, and he asked me if I had done a 10-year update, and he'd been looking for it and he couldn't find it. And so I said to him that I had been thinking about doing one and that I would try and get one done this weekend. So here I am, and I'm doing this. So because because I was doing the video, I went back and I actually read a blog post that I did that I wrote quite a while ago, and I just want to read part of that out to you first up, so that you can kind of have some understanding of where I've been with this. So this is what I wrote: living with Pyrrole Disorder. They say that variety is the spice of life, but not when it comes to Pyroluria symptoms. My challenges have been varied for sure, and began as far back as I can remember. From the social awkwardness and anxiety that were always there as a child, to the fluid retention and morbid obesity, recurring abdominal pain requiring hospital visits many times, and horrendous menstrual cycle that started as a teenager, and then on to the panic, the fear, the skin and digestive problems, allergies, depression, and much more that have plagued me as an adult. It has seemed that one thing after another has piled itself into my experience, messing up my life, making it hard, with nothing ever truly resolving, but instead being managed by self-education, experimentation, lifestyle adjustments, attitude adjustments, or by simply increasing my coping skills and finding ways to make it new excuses for why I was doing the things I do. This is what has made the journey so difficult and so confusing. I've had times in my life when I've been too fearful to leave home, too panicked to stand in a queue, too scared to leave PowerPoints turned on or even plugged in at night time, too tired to function, too fat to live, and so very close to suicidal. At times I've lived in pain, both mental and physical, while smiling and pretending everything was just fine. At times I've been almost convinced that I was truly crazy, and I've wondered how I could manage to continue to live and function day to day in any kind of normal fashion. But this is what Pyrrole Disorder is. Some sufferers are obviously not so bad, and some poor souls are much worse. But when diagnosed early, simple nutritional supplementation can prevent sufferers from having to live as I have, or worse, suffer the way I know many with undiagnosed Pyroluria have suffered, being labelled, misdiagnosed, treated with psychiatric drugs, forced to do things they don't want to do, being committed to psychiatric hospitals, having their life taken away and their rights removed. My heart and my soul bleeds for them when I consider what they must go through. I'm lucky and I'm incredibly grateful. I'm grateful that my inner guidance steered me away from doctors and the drugs they push, instead being guided by my internal knowing towards natural remedies, nutrition and lifestyle, to find answers to what was going on with me. If I hadn't listened to my inner voice, if I hadn't questioned the status quo, I can't imagine where I'd be now. Hell, I should imagine, or heaven. I'm super grateful that when I was finally so desperate that I actually went to a doctor, I again followed my inner guidance and chose a doctor who knew what Pyrrole Disorder was and recognised my symptoms immediately. I'm so eternally grateful that I finally found an answer. So many haven't. That needs to change, and change it will. So that's the end of an article that I wrote about Pyroluria a number of years ago, and I will link to that article below this video. But I want to talk about what Pyrrole Disorder is and the kinds of symptoms that people experience on it. So Pyrrole Disorder is also known as Pyroluria. It used to be known as mauve factor as well, because some people with Pyrrole Disorder, their urine has a slightly mauve tinge to it. It is caused by the synthesis of hemoglobin in the spleen. And so when our spleen's making hemoglobin or processing it, it creates a waste product called pyrroles. It has a longer name than that. I have that written down here somewhere. The abbreviation is HPL. It is hydroxyhemopyrrolin 2-1. And the abbreviation is HPL. So it is a waste product, and it is removed from the body through the urine, and it actually binds zinc and vitamin B6, making them unavailable. Pyroluria can be either genetic or acquired. So in my family, it seems to be genetic from my mum's side, because when I was diagnosed, and I did my video and I shared it on Facebook, and mum's cousin in Scotland who has ME and has basically been locked in her house, or stuck in her house for years because she's been so sick. She eventually managed to get out and go and get tested, and she has pyroluria as well. And I suspect my mother has it as well. So mum definitely has signs and symptoms of pyroluria, but she's never been tested. So I think that this is something that's kind of being passed down from one generation to another in our family. I knew that there was something genetic going on because I see signs of it in some of my nieces and nephews as well, and other family members. So I kind of figured that there was something going on, but I just didn't know what it was until I was diagnosed. Now, someone who doesn't have Pyrrole disorder, that process happens and it'll bind some zinc and B6, but because there's not huge amounts of the waste product, that's fine. In people with pyroluria, we make more of this HPL than we should, and so it binds more zinc and B6 and creates nutritional deficiencies of those two nutrients, and via them it can create other nutritional deficiencies as well. Now, when we are stressed as well, even people who don't have pyroluria, if they're stressed, their bodies will create more of this waste product. So this is one of the reasons I believe that stress can impact the body, because your body's losing more zinc and B6 through that hemoglobin synthesis and the waste products that it's creating because of the increased stress. Now, when those of us who have pyroluria, those deficiencies cause problems in pretty much, or can cause problems in pretty much any system of the body. So the B6 is particularly involved in the brain, and so things like anxiety, depression, tendencies toward alcoholism, mood disorders, schizophrenia, those sorts of things are associated with pyroluria, and that is in a large part due to the B6 deficiencies, or can be. And the zinc is involved. Zinc's used in every system of the body, so a deficiency in zinc can cause all sorts of things, from thyroid issues to hormonal issues to skin problems, digestive issues, all sorts of things. And so the symptoms of pyroluria can be quite varied. I'm going to read from my my blog and just let you know some of these symptoms. So the common deficiencies, and so I meant to mention as well, the common deficiencies with pyroluria are zinc B6, but also biotin and GLA, so gamma-linolenic acid. Now, the biotin, when I'd forgotten that biotin was actually a common deficiency. It was in my supplements that I was getting when I first was diagnosed with pyroluria. And since I've been on Carnivore, I've done a couple of videos where I've spoken about the scalp issue that I've been having, which is like a seborrheic dermatitis. Now, according to Elliot Overton, as I've said in my videos, there's two nutritional deficiencies that can cause this scalp issue, and that is either vitamin B2 or riboflavin and biotin. Now, I bought some B2 because I thought, oh, well, biotin shouldn't be an issue because I eat a lot of eggs, but now revisiting this, I'm kind of thinking, okay, so maybe it is the biotin, and maybe I need to actually get some biotin and try taking that, although my scalp is improving, but not as quickly or as well as I thought it would have. So anyway, onto the symptoms of pyroluria. So the common symptoms things like anxiety, fear, panic attacks, depression, anger, moodiness, social difficulties or awkwardness. So that's something that has always been there for me right since I was a child. Paranoia, low tolerance to stress, severe inattention. That is something that has at times in my life been so incredibly bad. And then there's a whole barrage of physical symptoms. So the physical symptoms, this is not a full list, but it is some of the symptoms that can exist. Sensitivity to loud noises, sensitivity to smells or bright light or bright light. Tactile sensitivities, hormonal problems, delayed puberty, thyroid issues, metabolic issues, abnormal fat distribution. I'm actually wondering whether pyroluria is associated with lipedema, and that's something that I want to have a look into. Abdominal pain, joint pain, knee pain, memory issues, explosive anger, irritable bowel syndrome, creaky joints, absence of dream recall, allergies, fluid retention, emotionally unstable, being dramatic, intolerance to drugs, intolerance to alcohol, alcoholism, substance abuse, nervousness, anemia, lack of hair on the head, eyebrows and eyelashes, white skin that burns easily, low libido, social withdrawal, leaky gut and digestive issues, and many more. So for me, throughout my life, a lot of these symptoms have been a part of my experience. Not all of them, but a lot of them. So, the sensitivity to loud noises and bright lights has definitely been a thing right since I was a child. Hormonal problems, yes, thyroid issues, metabolic issues, the abnormal fat distribution, abdominal pain and joint pain and all those sorts of things, definitely. The irritable bowel syndrome has definitely been a thing. Absence of dream recall. So I've had years and years and years with no dream recall. Now on the carnivore diet, I'm having some dream recall, which is really cool. I did notice some dream recall when I first started on the supplements as well for pyroluria all those years ago. Fluid retention, intolerance to drugs, the reliance on alcohol for me was a biggie, because that was the only way that I could relax in social situations. It was the only way I could relax at all sometimes. Substance abuse, not really apart from the alcohol, but food, yes, definitely. And yeah, so the social withdrawal, definitely, leaky gut and digestive issues. So for me, this has been lifelong, and I just sat there and I watched my first video just before starting this video, where I was talking about kind of what I've been through and about being diagnosed. And so that video, I've got that on it's on my YouTube channel. So I think it's pretty much my first video that I've got on here now, because I think I deleted all the videos that I'd done prior. But it's also on the blog post that I'll link to under this video as well. So if you want to watch that, you can see what I was saying there. But so it's estimated that possibly 10% of the population are affected by Pyrrole disorder, and it is in the much higher numbers in people of Irish descent. So that's me. So I'm pretty much Scottish with a bit of Irish, and that's all. So that kind of makes sense. So where am I like 10 years on? As I said, I just sat there and I watched that video that I made, and I'm a lot better than I was prior to being diagnosed. Before I was diagnosed, I was a mess, and I think that I was a functioning mess. I was working. I had to, because my husband doesn't work. So I was actually working for the council in Harpy Bay in Queensland at that stage, and I was managing, but I had really been struggling with being able to talk to people and to be able, I was uncomfortable all the time. It was really hard to manage, and I was drinking way too much wine to be able to, it was just a way of coping. And so, as I said in that video, I had tried all sorts of things, and just kept cleaning up my diet, exercise harder. Like it was this constant in strive for better health. And so once I was diagnosed and I got onto some supplements, I was on compounded supplements that contained vitamin B6, zinc. The B6 needs to be the P5P form. P5P, zinc, biotin, magnesium, and GLA, I think is what was in those supplements. And then once I moved back to New Zealand, and I couldn't find a doctor that was really up with the pyroluria, that was close enough for me to go to. There's a lady who's right up the top of the Coromandel Peninsula, and she was kind of too far away. I did go to a doctor over towards Hamilton, and because I knew he knew of it, because my cousin's wife was working with someone whose son had been diagnosed by him, so I knew he knew of pyroluria. But when I went to him, I just kind of didn't really feel like he knew enough. So what I ended up doing was I was just buying all my supplements individually through iHerb and taking them that way, and I continued to do that until, I'm not sure when I actually stopped them. I think I stopped them around about 2019, so I don't take any of those supplements now. But I'm actually wondering, looking back at that, whether that was a mistake. So what happened to me was, when we moved back to New Zealand, I started my business back up in the rooms that I'd been in prior, when we lived here before, and had forgotten that rooms had a really bad mold problem. So I ended up with mold illness that just kind of compounded everything. And so I don't know whether, so my health was deteriorating, it deteriorated quite badly, but I don't know whether my stopping the pyroluria supplements was contributed to that. I'm kind of suspecting now that maybe it did, and that I probably would have been better to have kept taking them. But the last 2 years, since I started on the carnivore diet, things have improved massively. And so my view, after, with my experience with the pyroluria and understanding what it is and what the nutritional deficiencies are, the nutrients that we require with pyroluria are in really high and very bioavailable amounts in meat and animal products, and as well as many other nutrients as well, that obviously they're going to need to work together. So so my view now is that, the best diet for Pyrrole disorder is the carnivore diet, and or a very highly meat and fat based diet. All those years that I was eating a really highly plant-based diet just seemed to make things worse. My gut health and everything was deteriorating badly, and my mental health. And so I think that was part of my mistake, was sticking with that kind of plant-based way of eating. There are a few psychologists, there's a couple of psychologists in particular, who are real advocates of the carnivore diet, and I can't remember their names. There's a Scottish lady, and there's one or two others, and I've seen some amazing stories of people with really serious with really serious mental challenges, like anorexia and eating disorders, who have managed to completely resolve those on the carnivore diet, when they are really difficult disorders to resolve. And so I think that for anyone with pyroluria or Pyrrole disorder, looking at this way of eating, the carnivore diet, or at least a really highly meat-based diet, is probably a good idea, because you get moving away from all those plant toxins and the things that bind nutrients up and stop our bodies from being able to use them, and that also affect our gut health. I remember, I think one of the reasons that I started to worry about taking the high zinc all the time was becoming deficient in copper. I think I made a bit of a mistake when I was first diagnosed and went on to my pyroluria supplements, because I went on a low copper diet, and I was on that low copper diet for quite a long time, and I think that was possibly a bit of a mistake as well. Even though copper can be high in pyroluria, because if our zinc's too low, copper is likely to be higher. Copper is obviously an essential nutrient that is needed, and that as well is in higher amounts in animal products, particularly liver and organs. So I now take liver capsules to make sure that I'm getting enough copper in my diet, and obviously there's a lot of meat and B vitamins in the animal foods that I'm eating. 10 years on, I am now, I've been up and then down and then back up again with everything because of the mold illness. And as I said, I think stopping my Pyroluria supplements at that point was probably a bad idea. But I'm not sure that I was actually thinking that well back then, whereas my brain function is way, way better now. But as I said, starting on the carnivore diet and eating a diet that's basically all meat and fat has done and amazing things for my mental health, for the way that my brain functions, for my physical health, and my body is just continues to heal more and more. Is everything perfect? No. Do I still have issues? Yes. I still have some of the social awkwardness that I've always had, that's always been there, but I haven't got that real super anxiety when I'm talking to people one-on-one. I can look people in the eye and I don't have all that problem that I've had in the past. I've been looking into histamine a lot because I've realized that histamine is also a big issue for me. And histamine can contribute to all of the stuff as well. It can contribute to the anxiety and the irritable bowel and all of these different conditions that can be part of pyroluria. So as with a lot of things, these things, there's usually more going on than just the one thing. And because I realized with pyroluria that MTHFR gene variations are quite often tied in with people who have pyroluria, and I had confirmed at the end of last year that I have 2 MTHFR gene variations, so both copies are variants, and then recently I've also confirmed for myself that I have issues with gene that creates DAO. So my DAO function in my body that breaks down histamine is an issue, probably seems to be, because I've been having a lot of problems. And there's also another gene, and I can't remember the name of right now, that can also play a part. So all of these things are kind of intertwined, and I think you can drive yourself a bit crazy trying to work out what exactly is causing the problem. But just when you understand that you have the problems and this may be why, then it kind of creates more understanding. Back when I was diagnosed, I thought that that was going to be my answer to everything and that I was going to be able to sort it all out, but that hasn't happened. And I think that for a lot of us, the supplements and the nutrition is key, but getting your nutrients from food is always going to be the best way. And so that's the path that I'm on now, and I will of course do more updates in the future, and I'm doing videos all the time talking about my journey on the carnivore diet anyway. So if you have pyroluria and this is kind of a little bit intriguing, make sure to subscribe and follow along so that you can see how things are going for me. I mean, I'm 60 years old now, and so for someone my age, my healing is going to take longer than someone who's in their 20s or 30s or 40s. That's just fairly obvious. And with everything that I've been through with the mold illness and everything else, that's all been part of the journey. So yeah, so as I said, if you have pyroluria and you're thinking about this way of eating, I know it can be hard sometimes because a lot of people with pyroluria tend to gravitate towards a plant-based diet, and that just seems to be a thing with us. The theory behind that is that we have more problems digesting meat, and I don't know whether that was the case for me or not. When I look back, I do know that many years ago I went through a phase where if I had, like a roast for dinner, I would wake up at 4 or 5 o'clock the next morning and be vomiting. And so it was kind of that those meat heavy meals that seemed to be causing that. But I now suspect that it was the meat combined with the other stuff that I was eating that was just making it difficult for my body to digest and manage that. Whereas now eating, just animal foods, my body digests my food pretty well. My digestive system is, for the most part, a lot better. But I suspect that the issues that I'm still having off and on is mostly to do with histamine and mast cell activation syndrome. So I'm looking into that, and I've done some videos already on histamine, and I'll be talking more about that in the future as well, because as I said, I think that the whole histamine issue and pyroluria and everything may often be combined, especially if there are MTHFR gene variations, because you're more likely to have issues with mast cell activation syndrome with those. So yeah, so that's my video. That's my update. If you have any comments or questions, please pop them below and I'll get to them as soon as I can. If you want to see more, make sure to subscribe. And I thank you very much for watching. And make sure to like and share as well if you feel so inclined. I thank you very much for watching and listening to me, and I will talk to you again another day. Goodbye for now.